Well, shipmates, if you listen to me, I'll tell you in my song. Things have lately happened since I come home from Hong Kong. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? As I walked down beside the docks, a fair maid I did meet. She asked me for to see her home, and she lived on Bleecker Street. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? I said, now, dear young lady, I'm a stranger in your town. I left my ship just yesterday, and for Boston I am bound. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? She said, now come along with me and you will have a treat. You will have some brandy, dear, and something good to eat. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? So we went down to Bleecker Street, we stopped at 44. Her 20 so-called sisters was a-waitin' at the door. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? They gave me wine, it tasted fine, but it went right to my head. Then they threw my clothes away and they carried me to bed. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? I woke next morning all naked in the dawn. My clothes and all my money and them lady friends was gone. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? Now, I don't miss the money like some other sailors might, but I wish I could remember if I had some fun that night. To me, way Santy, my dear Annie. Oh, you New York gals, can't you dance the polka? That's an American sea shanty from Sag Harbor, New York, from back in the days when Sag Harbor was one of the major whaling ports in the country, back in the days when whaling was the 5th largest industry in the United States. This concert of whaling and sailing songs from the days of Moby Dick is part of the Martin County Library System's 2021 Chautauqua South season. Chautauqua South is sponsored by the Friends of the Martin County Library System. 175 years ago, every lamp that burned was filled with the oil of an ocean-dwelling whale. In December of 1840, Captain Pease hired 22-year-old Herman Melville as a green hand to work aboard the Acushnet, a whaling ship going out on its maiden voyage. Melville received an $84 advance, would be worth about $2,500 today, and a 175th lay. That meant that after all the expenses were deducted, he received 1/175th of the net profit of the whaling voyage. On Sunday, January 3rd of 1841, Melville set sail on the maiden voyage of the whaling ship Acushnet out of New Bedford Harbor. It was his very first voyage. When you're sailing out for the first time, men will tell you of trips that they've made, of the work and the sweat and the loneliness, and you feel just a little afraid. They'll tell you of whales that they've harpooned and of payoffs they've had in the past, of the men who have died and the boredom, and of ships that were to be their last. They say when you've been out it's 6 months in that cold and desolate place, that you won't be able to sleep at night, or remember your own mother's face. It won't be the first time you've worked hard, for you've mined and you've dug ditches too. But how can there be any loneliness with 300 men in the crew? So when you ask them why they go whaling and why from their families they part, well, they may shrug and say it's the money, or that man is a hunter at heart. When you lie in your bunk on the first night and you hope that it won't be too tough, and the roll of the ship puts you off to sleep, you'll find out for yourself soon enough. But when you're sailing out for the first time, men will tell you of trips that they've made, of the work and the sweat and the loneliness, and you feel just a little afraid. The earliest whalers in Europe were the Basques, and most of the other European nations that went into commercial whaling hired Basque whalers to teach them the trade. American whaling began around 1712 on Nantucket Island, which is inhabited by Quakers who have a religious belief that they will not support war or violence. And it's very interesting that the Nantucket Islanders became the most bloodthirsty and vicious sperm whale hunters on the planet. When they went to Nantucket during the wars in the United States and asked the people there to give their plowshares and metal instruments to be melted down for guns and swords, the Nantucketers refused on religious beliefs. They were so opposed to violence, but they did become the most effective and bloodthirsty sperm whale hunters on planet Earth. By 1840, there were some 22,000 Americans working on some 720 whaling ships worldwide, out of a total of maybe 900, so America greatly dominated this industry at that time. Aboard a whaling ship, the captain's word was law. He was judge and jury and executioner, and it was sort of a meritocracy. At that time in American history, 175 years ago, your skin color, your nationality, and your religion could greatly affect what sort of job you could get. But on a whaling ship, if you could do the dirty work of a whaler, no one cared where you were born, or what religion you practiced, or what language you spoke. Once upon a time, singing was part of everyday life as much as walking or talking or eating, and our ancestors, wherever they lived and wherever they went, they sang songs while pounding grain and paddling canoes and walking on long journeys. The rhythm of the music coordinated the labor and the movement to get everybody to do the work at the same time. And this was very important on a whaling ship. You had 35 sailors, all who spoke different languages, and you had to get them all to pull these ropes to move a sail up to the top of the mast, and they had to do it at the same time. This was coordinated through song. The shantyman would sing in the chorus. There would be places to pull the rope. Now, there are a few words in this next song I want to explain. One of them is being shanghaied. When a sailor was sitting in a bar having a drink, minding his own business, someone would surreptitiously come up behind and whack him over the head and knock him out. And when he came to, he was on another whaling ship 1,000 miles from the coast, out on another 7-year journey, after swearing to himself that he would never go to sea again. Holy stoning was when they made you clean the deck with a great big pumice stone. You get down on your hands and knees and scrub it till it was shiny and clean and white. And if the captain wanted to, he would have you whipped, give you 20 lashes. They call it 5 and 15, and you were whipped bareback, and it was pretty painful, and you live with the scars. And if they really wanted to punish you, the captain would have one of the men on the crew put salt or saltpeter in your wound to make it worse. This next whaling song was collected from Mr. Calvin Perkins of New Bedford, Massachusetts, which at the time was the largest whaling port in the United States. This 1867 lyric was published in the Boston Advertiser, and I believe that was the first time it was in print. And it is a tall tale of the sea and a cautionary one, the story of Reuben Ranzo. And the way this would work is that the shantyman would sing the verses, and the whalers and sailors on the ship would try to pull to get that rope up. So the shantyman would sing, "Oh, Reuben was no sailor," and the crew would sing, "Ranzo, boys, Ranzo," and they get two pulls on that. They go, "Ranzo, boys, Ranzo," and the shantyman would keep making up verses until the sail was all the way raised up to the top and they were done. So it went like this. "Oh, Reuben was no sailor, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. He was a Boston tailor, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. He went down to New Bedford, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. He got shanghaied on a whaler, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. Now he couldn't do his duty, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. So they put him to holy stoning, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. And they gave him 5 and 15, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. But the captain's youngest daughter, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo, she begged her pa for mercy, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. He took Reuben to the cabin, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo, and he taught him navigation, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. Now he's skipper of this whaler, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo, and a terror to the sailors, Ranzo, boys, Ranzo. Frederick Pease Harlow, who went to sea when he was still in his teens, wrote in his book Shantying aboard American ships that sailors were so accustomed to singing out when there was a pull to be made that he'd actually heard an old sailor give a yip-hip-ho while pulling on his sea boots. When they would catch the whale, someone would sight it with a scope, from the crow's nest, and the whalers would pile into a small whaling boat, and they would row out to the whale and shove harpoons into its body, and the harpoons were attached to a rope which was tied to the whaling boat, and the angry whale would take off as fast as it could, pulling on that rope, pulling that whaling boat behind, and the men would go what they call a Nantucket sleigh ride. When they finally got the whale back to the ship, they'd cut it up in pieces and cook it down into oil in big cast iron cauldrons. It was called trying out. It would take days to do this, and they would get per foot or per ton of whale, they'd get just about one barrel. It'd take about 40 whales to fill the whole hold with 1,600 barrels of oil, and a whaling voyage lasted till every barrel was full and the hold was completely full of barrels of oil. It could be 6 or 7 years before the voyage was completed. This one comes out of Joanna Colcord's book, Songs of the American Sailormen, published in 1938. This one comes out of the Journal of the Atkins Adams. At the end of the whaling period, many of the whaling journals were collected from the old ships, and they're housed in the Whaling Museum in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where one can do their research about these songs. So this one was written in the journal in 1858. It was sung by the bowhead whalemen who would go up to the Arctic to hunt the whales. Whales are pretty smart. See, in the early days, back in the early 1700s or late 1600s, explorers in the United States would report thousands of whales on the coast, and they weren't afraid of people, and they were very curious. I've read reports of people who saw 1,000 whales all spouting in the same time in Chesapeake Bay, and they said it reminded them of the smokestacks of London town. And La Perouse, when he got to the Monterey Bay in 1786, said that there were so many whales, and they weren't all afraid, and they came right up to the boat, spouting, and he could smell them and see them, and it was quite remarkable. But once the whales started being hunted, they were smart, and they went to the Arctic to try to stay as far away from the whalers as possible. So now a whaling ship had to leave New Bedford, sail around the bottom of South America, around the Horn, go all the way up to the Arctic, and sometimes winter over for several years before the hold was full of oil. That is to say that the captain would wait for winter till the ship would freeze in the ice, till it was immobilized like an almond in a bar of chocolate. And then they would wait out the winter until the ice broke up and the whales came back and try to continue their whaling hunting. So this is one of the ones that the bowhead whalemen sang on their way back from the Arctic as they headed for Maui, where they would go to the taverns and enjoy the company of the women, and they had a song about it called Rolling Down to Old Maui. It's a damn tough life of toil and strife we whalermen undergo, and we don't give a damn when the gales come around how hard the winds do blow, 'cause we're often bound from the Arctic ground with a good ship taut and free, and we won't give a damn till we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we sail with a northerly gale through the ice and wind and snow. Them native friends, them native lands, we ain't got far to go. 6 hellish months we've passed away on the cold Kamchatka Sea. But now we're bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. How soft the breeze through the island trees, now the ice is far astern. Them native maids, them island glades is awaitin' our return. Even now their big brown eyes look out, hoping some fine day to see our raggedy sails running through the gales, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic round, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. "22-year-old Herman Melville, a green hand on the Acushnet, wrote in his book Redburn, published in 1849, that at first he found all the singing on board the ship kind of strange. But I soon got used to this singing, for the sailors never touched a rope without it. Sometimes, when no one happened to strike up, and the pulling, whatever it might be, did not seem to be getting forward very well, the mate would say, 'Come on, men, can't any of you sing? Sing now and raise the dead.' And some of them would begin, and if every man's arms were as much relieved by mine as mine by the song, and he could pull as much better as I did, with such a cheering accompaniment, I'm sure the song was well worth the breath expended on it. It is a great thing in a sailor to know how to sing well, for he gets a great name by it from the officers and a good deal of popularity from his shipmates. Some sea captains, before shipping a man, always ask him whether he can sing out on a rope. And I believe that this next song was Herman Melville's personal favorite sea shanty. It's called Spanish Ladies. Melville begins chapter 40 of Moby Dick with the Midnight Watch singing this song. He quotes the song again in White Jacket and also in the poem Tom Deadlight. The chorus says, "We rant and we roar like New Bedford whalers," but it's kind of a zipper song. You can easily change that to "We rant and we roar like true British whalers," or Chesapeake sailors, or whatever you want it to be. They'd sail down around the Horn and stop in Valparaiso, Chile, and that's where they would spend time with those Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. Our captains commanded we sail for New England, but we hope in a short time to see you again. We rant and we roar like New Bedford whalers. We rant and we roar on deck and below, until we sight the New Bedford light. Then straight up the channel to anchor we'll go. We hove our ship to with the wind from the southwest. We hove our ship to for the strike soundings clear. Then we filled our main topsails and bore right away, boys. Then straight up the channel our course we did steer. We rant and we roar like New Bedford whalers. We rant and we roar on deck and below, until we sight the New Bedford light. Then straight up the channel to anchor we'll go. Now let every man toss off a full bumper, and let every man toss off a full glass, and we'll drink and be jolly and drown melancholy, saying here's a good health to each true-hearted lass. We rant and we roar like New Bedford whalers. We rant and we roar on deck and below, until we sight the New Bedford light. Then straight up the channel to anchor we'll go. The oldest version of Spanish Ladies was penned in the Journey of the Nelly back in 1769. Hundreds of years ago, legendary places and mythical kingdoms were considered so real that they were found on maps of the world. The unknown author of a 13th century book called The King's Mirror, a scientific essay in the form of a dialogue between a father and son, wrote that the waters of Greenland are infested with monsters. The merman was very tall and of great size and rose straight out of the water. He had a head and shoulders and eyes and a mouth, but above the eyes and the eyebrows it looked more like a man wearing a peaked helmet on his head. Its form looked very much like an icicle in that it narrowed at the bottom. But no one has ever seen how the lower half is shaped, whether it terminates like a fin on a fish or whether it is pointed like a pole. The mermaid rarely appeared except before a violent storm, and was ugly to look at with a large and terrifying face. In our time, mermaids are either cute or sexy, and we see them in movies and even on children's lunchboxes at school. But several hundred years ago, a mermaid was such bad news, it was such a bad omen for sailors that if you saw a mermaid on your voyage, it meant that you were never coming home, that your ship was going to sink to the bottom of the sea, and that you were going to die. And one of the most widespread of the sailing songs is called The Mermaid. The oldest versions of this song go back to the middle 1700s. It is now child ballad number 289. And it talks about how they set sail on Friday morning. Well, you know, in the old days, every Friday was as unlucky as Friday the 13th. So when you hear that they set sail on a Friday morning, you know that they were starting on the wrong foot. This is The Mermaid. It was Friday morning when we set sail, and we were not so far from the land, when our captain he spied a mermaid so fair, with a comb and a glass in her hand. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we old sailors are skipping at the top, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 and the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the captain of our gallant ship, and a brave old captain was he. I've married me a wife in Boston by the sea, and tonight a widow she will be. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we bold sailors are skipping at the top, while the landlubbers lie down below, and the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the cabin boy of our gallant ship, and a dirty little rat was he. I've a father, I've a mother in Salem by the sea, and tonight childless they will be. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we bold sailors are skipping at the top, while the landlubbers lie down below, and the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the cook of our gallant ship, and a red-hot cook was he. I care much more for my kettles and my pots than I do for the bottom of the sea. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we bold sailors are skipping at the top, while the landlubbers lie down below, and the landlubbers lie down below. Then 3 times round spun our gallant ship, and 3 times round spun she. Oh, 3 times round spun our gallant ship, and she went to the bottom of the sea. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we bold sailors are skipping at the top, while the landlubbers lie down below, and the landlubbers lie down below. Well, this is a capstan shanty for raising the anchor. Some of the ships would have a turnstile like you'd see at a subway, and the men would hold onto the poles and walk around in a circle, and they would keep singing as many verses as it took to bring the anchor up from the bottom of the sea. So this is the one called "We'll Roll the Old Chariot Along." And of course, over there at the capstan, out of earshot of the captain, they could talk about how they really felt about being on that ship. It went like this. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. We'd be all right if the wind would fill our sail, we'd be all right if the wind would fill our sail, we'd be all right if the wind would fill our sail, and we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. We'd be all right if we had a little rum, we'd be all right if we had a little rum, we'd be all right if we had a little rum, and we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. We'll be all right when the skipper's in his grave, we'll be all right when the skipper's in his grave, we'll be all right when the skipper's in his grave, and we'll all hang on behind. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. It was not uncommon for a sailor to die during the voyage, and they would bury them at sea. From the Journal of the Louisiane, a ship that sailed out of Wilmington, Delaware, somebody penciled this into the log in 1837. And this is the one about the dying sailor who's going to be buried at sea. I learned this one from Paul Clayton. Oh, wrap me in my country's flag and lay me in the cold blue sea, and let the roaring of the waves my final requiem be. And I shall sleep a pleasant sleep while storms above their vigils keep. My captain brave will read for me the service of the silent dead, and ye shall lower me in the waves when all the prayers are said, and I shall find my long-lost home among the billows and the foam. O shipmates, now for many a league we have sailed together on the deep. Oh, let us shake hands, I sail no more, but shipmates ne'er foreweep. I am bound above, my course is run, I near the port, my voyage is done. Captain Frederick Marryat, in his 1839 book Diary of America, wrote that he heard this next one, a captain's shanty for heaving the anchor, called Sally Brown, sung on a packet ship from England to the United States in 1837. Oh, Sally Brown, she's a Cree old lady, way, hey, roll and go. Sally Brown's a gay old lady, spend my money on Sally Brown. Oh, Sally Brown, she has a daughter, way, hey, roll and go. Sent me sailing across the water, spend my money on Sally Brown. For 7 long years I courted Sally, way, hey, roll and go. Then she said she would not marry, spend my money on Sally Brown. She wouldn't have no tarry sailor, way, hey, roll and go. Wouldn't have no greasy whaler, spend my money on Sally Brown. Oh, Sally Brown, I'm bound to leave you, way, hey, roll and go. Sally Brown, I'll not deceive you, spend my money on Sally Brown. Oh, Sally Brown, she took a notion, way, hey, roll and go. Sent me sailing across the ocean, spend my money on Sally Brown. Oh, Sally Brown, she's a gay old lady, way, hey, roll and go. Sally Brown's a Creole lady, spend my money on Sally Brown. This next song is on my CD, The Radio's Taken Our Songs Away, the American folk song in the age of the selfie. Admiral Benbow was an admiral in the British Navy, and of course their traditional enemy at that time in history was the French. This is 300 years ago. The French and the English were having a war close to Jamaica in 1702, and that's when Admiral Benbow got his leg blown off, but he finished the fight. Apparently, 2 of his captains had abandoned him there, and he had to fight the French all by himself. He's buried in Kingston in Jamaica, and this is the song they sing about him. "'Twas often at Moray, calling Benbow by his name. He fought on the raging main, you must know. Oh, the ship rocks up and down, and the shots all flying round, the enemy tumbling down. There he lay, there he lay. The ship rocks up and down, and the shots all flying round, the enemy tumbling down. There he lay, there he lay. 'Twas Reuben and Benbow fought the French, fought the French. 'Twas Reuben and Benbow fought the French. Oh, on his old stump he fell, and so loudly he did call, fight ye on, me English lads, 'tis my lot, 'tis my lot. Oh, on his old stump he fell, and so loudly did call, fight ye on, me English lads, 'tis my lot, 'tis my lot. When the doctor dressed his wounds, Benbow cried, Benbow cried. When the doctor dressed his wounds, Benbow cried. Let a bed be fetched in haste, on the quarter-deck be placed, that the enemy I might face till I die, till I die. Let a bed be fetched in haste, on the quarter-deck be placed, that the enemy I might face till I die, till I die. On Tuesday morning last, Benbow died, Benbow died. On Tuesday morning last, Benbow died. What a shocking sight to see, as Benbow was carried away. He was carried to Kingston Church, there he lay, there he lay. What a shocking sight to see, as Benbow was carried away. He was carried to Kingston Church, there he lay, there he lay. These whaling songs didn't become collected by folklorists till the 1880s, so some of the earliest ones appeared in magazines and newspapers. This one was published in 1853 in Tait's Edinburgh magazine, making it one of the earliest published sea shanties. Even though they were written down in the journals of the ships, these were just something that wound up in museums. They weren't things that were published, and folklorists weren't terribly interested in them before the 1880s. This is the one about a very beloved captain whose name was Old Stormalong. Old Stormy, he is dead and gone. To my way you storm along. Stormy, he is dead and gone. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. Carry him to his long-lost home. To my way you storm along. Bury him in the burying ground. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. And dig his grave with a silver spade. To my way you storm along. Lower him down with a golden chain. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. I wish I was old Stormy's son. To my way you storm along. I'd build me a ship of 1,000 tons. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. I'd load her with New England rum. To my way you storm along. All my sailors should have some. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. A glass of grog for every man. To my way you storm along. And a bottle for the shanty man. Way, hey, hey, Mr. Storm along. This next one is called Shallow Brown. I talked about how a whaling ship was a meritocracy. They didn't care what color your skin was, or what language you spoke, or what religion you practiced, as long as you could do the dirty work of a whaler and do it well. The word shallow is an old word from the 19th century that means a person of mixed race heritage. And this is a story of an enslaved African-American man who overhears his master saying that he's going to be sold downriver. So he decides he's going to run away, and that night he visits his sweetheart to tell her that he's leaving. This is called Shallow Brown. Julianne, I truly love you. Oh, shallow brown. Julianne, I truly love you. Oh, shallow brown. But I'm bound away to leave you. Oh, shallow brown. I am bound away to leave you. Oh, shallow brown. For my master's going to sell me. Oh, shallow brown. for that shiny Spanish dollar. Oh, shallow brown. So I've signed on as a sailor. Oh, shallow brown. I have signed on board a whaler. Oh, shallow brown. And my packet leaves tomorrow. Oh, shallow brown. And my heart is full of sorrow. Oh, shallow brown. Julianne, I'm bound to leave you. Oh, shallow brown. Julianne, I'll not deceive you. Oh, shallow brown. These old English language ballads were the movies and novels of their time, and so they told the sort of stories that you would expect to find in a movie or a novel. This one is very old. The oldest printed version is a broadside from England from the year 1785, originally called The Sweet Trinity. Professor Bronson collected over 100 different melodies for the one that we now call The Golden Vanity. This one's on my CD, When the River Ran Backwards. The Golden Vanity, been around for some 350 years and maybe even longer. Some of the folklorists say that the cruel captain in the story was actually Sir Francis Drake on one of his voyages. There was a lofty ship, and they put her out to sea, and the name of the ship was the Golden Vanity, as she sailed along the lonesome low, as she sailed along the lonesome sea. And she had not been sailing for 2 weeks or 3, when she was overtaken by the Turkish enemy, as she sailed along the lonesome low, as she sailed along the lonesome sea. And then up spoke our little cabin boy, saying, "What would you give me if the galley I destroy, if I sink her in the lonesome low, if I sink her in that lonesome sea?" To the man that them destroys, the captain did reply, £5,000 on my daughter for his bride, if he sinks her in the lonesome low, if he sinks her in that lonesome sea. So the boy bared his breast, and overboard went he, and he swum till he come to the Turkish enemy, as she sailed along the lonesome low, as she sailed along that lonesome sea. And he had a brace and auger that was made for the use, and he bored 9 holes in her hull all at once, and he sank her in the lonesome low, he sank her in that lonesome sea. And some was playing poker, and some was playing dice, And some was in their hammocks, and the sea as cold as ice, and the water rushed in, and it dazzled to their eyes. They were sinking in the lonesome sea. Then he swum back to his ship, and he beat upon the side, saying, "Shipmates, bring me up, for I'm weary with the tide. I am sinking in the lonesome, lonesome low. I am sinking in that lonesome sea." "No, I will not bring you up," the captain then replied. "I'll shoot you, I will sink you, I will drown you in the tide. I will sink you in the lonesome, lonesome low. I will sink you in that lonesome sea. If it was not for the love that I bear for you men, I would do unto you just as I have done to them. I would sink you in the lonesome, lonesome low. I would sink you in that lonesome sea." Then the boy bowed his head, and down sunk he, a bidding farewell to the golden vanity, and he drowned it in the lonesome, lonesome low. He drowned it in that lonesome sea. There was a lofty ship, and they put her out to sea, and the name of the ship was the Golden Vanity, as she sailed along the lonesome, lonesome low, as she sailed upon the lonesome sea. On November 20th of 1820, the whaleship Essex, that had sailed out of New Bedford Harbor in Massachusetts, was off the west coast of Chile. Owen Chase was on deck hammering a nail into a board. A 90-foot bull sperm whale was just a few hundred feet away, and it heard the sound of the hammering, and in whale talk it meant bad news to him, and he became very angry. He swam away from the whaleship Essex and turned around and came back and rammed the ship as hard as he could, knocking all the sailors to their knees. No one had ever heard of a whale ramming a ship before. Before the men could collect themselves and figure out what was going on, the whale swam away from the ship again and came back even faster and hit the ship so hard this time he broke a hole in the wooden side of the ship. And the ship sunk to the bottom of the sea, and the men scrambled for the whaleboats, and they spent some 90 days in those whaleboats waiting to be rescued. Herman Melville, 6 months after he set sail on the Acushnet with Captain Pease, was off the coast of Chile in July of 1841, when they encountered some other whaling ships, and the men got together and they traded stories and tobacco, they traded songs, they traded poems, and they spent time together. And Herman Melville, 22 years old, met a young sailor by the name of William Henry Chase. And his father, Owen Chase, was the first mate from the whaleship Essex. And his father, Owen Chase, had written a book called Stove by a Whale, about the sinking of the whaleship Essex by an enraged bull sperm whale. And William Henry Chase gave Herman Melville a copy of his father's book, which Herman Melville was able to read aboard ship on the Acushnet. And he later wrote, "The wondrous story on the landless sea, close to the latitude of the shipwreck, had a surprising effect on me," and it inspired him to write the book Moby Dick. Now, of course, once the whales had figured out that they had to go to the Arctic to avoid the whalers started building whaling stations way up in the Arctic, and they built them in Greenland. And one of the most widespread whaling songs is the one about the Greenland whale fisheries. The oldest version of this comes out of the Journal of the Manus in 1820, 200 years ago. And this song was popular among both the whaling ships and merchant marine ships, and it's probably a true story, the one about the Greenland whale fishery. 'Twas in 1763, on June the 13th day, that our gallant ship her anchor weighed, and for Greenland sailed away. Brave boys, for Greenland sailed away. Now the lookout in the crosstree stood, with a spyglass in his hand. It's a whale, there's a whale, he cried, and she blows at every strand. Brave boys, she blows at every strand. Now the captain stood on the quarter-deck, and a fine-looking man was he. Overhaul, overhaul, let your davit tackles fall, till you land your boats in the sea, brave boys, till you land your boats in the sea. Now the boats were launched with the men aboard, and the whale was in full view. Resolve it was, each seaman bold, to steer where the whalefishes blew, brave boys, to steer where the whalefish blew. And then we struck that whale, and the line paid out, but she gave a flunder with her tail, and the boat capsized, and 4 men were drowned, and we never caught that whale, brave boys, we never caught that whale. Oh, to lose the men, the captain cried, it grieves my heart full sore. Oh, but to lose a 100-barrel whale, it grieves me 10 times more, brave boys, it grieves me 10 times more. Oh, the winter star doth now appear, so boys, we'll anchor weigh. It's time to leave this cold country and homeward bear away, brave boys, homeward bear away. Oh, Greenland is a dreadful place. It's the land that's never green, where there's ice and snow and the whalefishes blow, and daylight seldom seen, brave boys, daylight seldom seen. A 175 years ago, Frederick Myritt of Nantucket Island, a whaler on the whaleship the Susan, carved this verse into a 6-inch long, scrimshawed sperm whale tooth. Death to the living, long life to the killers, success to sailors' wives, and greasy luck to whalers. I learned this next song from the singing of the late Louisa Killen. This is another one of those stories about the girls who would go and pawn your clothes. You see, these sailors would be out at sea on a whaling or sailing voyage, you know. Whaler would be out for 5, 6, 7 years. Well, the captain would pay him off at the end of the voyage. He'd have hundreds, even thousands of dollars in his pocket. And these foolish men wouldn't go first to the bank. They'd go first to the saloon, and they'd buy everybody a drink, and they'd get pretty drunk, and they'd meet a pretty girl, and they'd go home with her, and they'd wake up in the morning, and all their money was gone, and all their clothes were gone. And naked with a towel wrapped around them, they'd go back to the land shark who got them the first job on a whaling ship and beg him to get them placed on another whaling ship, even though they had sworn to themselves many times and promised that they would never go to sea once more. When first I came to Liverpool, I went upon a spree. My money at last, I spent it fast, I got drunk as drunk could be. And when my money it was all gone, was then I wanted more. But a man must be blind to make up his mind and go to sea once more. Once more, once more, and go to sea once more. A man must be blind to make up his mind and go to sea once more. I spent the night with Angeline, too drunk to roll in bed. My clothes was new and my money was too. In the morning with them she fled. And as I walked the streets of Port, the whores they all did roar. There goes Jack Rath, a poor sailor lad, he must go to sea once more. Once more, once more, he must go to sea once more. There goes Jack Rath, a poor sailor lad, he must go to sea once more. And as I walked the streets of Port, I met with Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would get me a job, and he looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid off, with me you chalk no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance and send you to sea once more. Once more, once more, I'll send you to sea once more. I'll give you a chance, I will take your advance and send you to sea once more. He shipped me aboard of a whaling ship, all bound for the Arctic seas, where the cold wind blows through the ice and snow, and Jamaica rum would freeze. And worse for me, I'd no hard weather gear, for I'd blown all my money ashore. It's then that I wished that I was dead, so I'd go to sea no more. No more, no more, so I'd go to sea no more. It's then that I wish that I was dead, so I'd go to sea no more. Some days we're catching whales, me boys, some days we're catching none. With a 20-foot oar all in your hand at 4 o'clock in the morn. And when the shades of night come down, you rest on your weary oar. It's then that I wish that I was dead, or safe with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or safe with the girls ashore. It's then that I wish that I was dead, or safe with the girls ashore. So come all you bold seafaring lads, and listen to my song. When you go out on them long voyages, pray that you don't do wrong. Take my advice, drink no strong drink, don't go sleeping with no whore. But get married, me lad, and spend all night in, and go to sea no more. No more, no more, and go to sea no more. Get married, me lads, and spend all night in, and go to sea no more. If that isn't exactly a true story, it's full of real-life experiences that happen to whalers. I learned this next one from the late Paul Clayton. This is the one called the Maid of Amsterdam. This is one of the oldest capstan shanties for heaving the anchor, with lots and lots of verses. The men walked around the turnstile, bringing that anchor up from the bottom of the sea on that great heavy chain. Another story about one of those girls who goes and pawns your clothes. The Maid of Amsterdam. As I said, one of the oldest of the capstan shanties. In Amsterdam there lives a maid, mark well what I do say. In Amsterdam there lives a maid, and she is a mistress of her trade. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I took this maiden for a walk, mark well what I do say. I took this maiden for a walk, she drank some gin and didn't she talk. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She said, you sailors, I love you so, mark well what I do say. All you sailors, I love you so, and the reason why I soon did know. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She placed her hand upon my knee, mark well what I do say. Placed her hand upon my knee, I said, young miss, you're rather free. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, roving's been my ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I gave this miss a parting kiss, mark well what I do say. I gave this miss a parting kiss, when I got aboard my money I missed. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, roving's been my ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. Herman Melville once wrote, "It is better to fail at originality than to succeed at imitation." And he knew what he was talking about. In 1847, Herman Melville's brother died, leaving him, he was recently married, and that left him the sole supporter of his mother and his sister-in-law and his new wife. Although Moby Dick, which was published when Melville was 32 years old, is now considered perhaps the greatest work of American literature, the critics panned it when it was first published in 1851. It was the product of a year and a half of writing. Moby Dick, 864 pages in length, drew on Melville's experiences aboard the whaling ship Acushnet and his reading of seafaring literature, most importantly, 2 years before the Mast by Richard Henry Dana, published in 1840, and an 1839 issue of Knickerbocker magazine, which had a story by Jeremiah N. Reynolds called The Hunt for Mocha Dick, the Great White Sperm Whale. Moby Dick only sold 500 copies in England, and it sold fewer than 3,500 copies during Melville's lifetime. It was not a success. A year later, consumed by a deep depression, at the age of 33, Melville gave up writing fiction forever. He tried his hand as writing poetry unsuccessfully, and in 1866, at the age of 47, he ended his career as a writer. Burdened with financial troubles, through his wife's family connections, Herman Melville secured a position as a customs inspector at the New York Custom House, and he worked there for 19 years to support his family. And he is remembered as perhaps the only honest man in a group of corrupt inspectors, the only honest one of his generation. Melville died at the age of 72 in 1891. 3 decades after Melville's death, in 1919, at the centennial of his birth, critics discovered Moby Dick. And thus began the Melville revival, and Moby Dick has never been out of print since, and it's considered a literary masterpiece today. Somehow this traditional ballad from the American mountains became a widespread sea shanty. Slowly our folk songs grew, part dream and part reality, part past and part present. Each phrase rose from the depths of the heart, or was carved out of the rock of experience. Each line was sung smooth by many singers, who tested it against the American reality until the language became apt and truthful, and as tough as cured hickory. Here lies the secret of their beauty. They evoke the feeling of belonging to a certain branch of the human family. They honestly describe or protest against the deepest ills that afflict us. Our racism, our love of violence, our repressed sexuality, and our loneliness. And finally, they've been shaped by so many hands that they have acquired a patina of art and reflect the tenderest and most creative impulses of the human heart, casting upon our often harsh and melancholy tradition a luster of pure beauty. Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Away, you rolling river. Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. The trader loved the Indian maiden. Away, you rolling river. His canoe with dollars laden. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. The chief disdained the trader's dollar. Away, you rolling river. My daughter you will never follow. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. He gave the chief some fire water. Away, you rolling river. And across the river he's stolen his daughter. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, he's stolen your daughter. Away, you rolling river. He's gone away where you can't follow. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. Away, we're bound away, across the wide Missouri. This concert of whaling and sailing songs from the days of Moby Dick is part of the Martin County Library System's 2021 Chautauqua South season. Chautauqua South is sponsored by the Friends of the Martin County Library System. My name is Adam Miller. My website is folksinging.org, folksinging.org. Please remember that libraries will get you through times of no money, a whole lot better than money's going to get you through times of no libraries. And I'd like to close this program with the song the sailors would sing when they were on the voyage home. There are many versions and variants of this one in Australia and Canada and England and the United States. The earliest versions in print go back to the 1850s. I hope you'll join me on the chorus. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to Caledonia. Rolling home, dear land, to thee. man the capstan, see the cable running clear. Heave away, and with a wheel, boy, to our homeland we will steer. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Round Cape Horn one frosty morning, and our sails were full of snow. Hang your sheets and clear your halyards, swing around, let her go. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Fare thee well, ye Spanish ladies, for we now must bid adieu. Happy times we've spent together, happy times we've spent with you. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Oh, it's eastward, ever eastward, to the rising of the sun. Homeward, ever, ever homeward, to the land where I was born. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Many thousand miles behind us, many thousand miles before, and our sweethearts will be waiting on that well-remembered shore. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea. Rolling home to Caledonia, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Thank you.